David Walker was born in Wilmington, North Carolina in 1796 or 1797. The exact date is unknown. His father was a slave while his mother was a free woman. Due to state laws at the time, David Walker took after his mother and was a free man. Even though him and his mother were both free, they both still faced discrimination everywhere they went. In North Carolina, his mother got him an education which was rare back then. With the education Walker obtained at youth, he traveled the country working to pay for himself. He finally settled in Boston, Massachusetts, where he married Eliza Butler in 1827 and had a son, Edwin G. Walker. Soon after his moving to Boston, Walker became the owner of his own shop where he would sell secondhand clothing.
With his race working against him in society, David Walker was a great abolitionist to destroy slavery and give more rights to African Americans. His father was a slave in the South and barely got to raise David Walker. His mother had to raise him on her own mostly, which was difficult as they were racially discriminated against, and women had very poor paying jobs. David Walker fought for African Americans' rights until his early death.
In 1829, David Walker published Walker Appeal in 4 articles, together with a preamble to the colored citizens of the world, but in particular and very expressly to those of the United States of America. In the pamphlet, David Walker stated slavery needed to end immediately, and African Americans should have equal rights and the same opportunities as white men. Throughout his adult years, Walker also assisted the Underground Railroad by smuggling slaves to Canada, where they would be free. He saved many lives of slaves by helping on the Underground Railroad, as well as helping African American voices be heard through writing.
In David Walker's pamphlet, he calls for violent protests, as the peaceful ones were just not doing the job. Many agreed to his idea that African Americans should be equal to whites, but more just argued slavery was cruel. Walker used the Bible to support his anti-slavery beliefs, as slavery was using human beings as property and are disposed at their master's will, which is absolutely unrightful. To spread his pamphlet, David Walker had a sneaky and intelligent way. Walker used his shop by the harbor to spread his words. In pockets and seams, Walker would sew his pamphlet into the clothing that he sold. With the shop on the Boston Harbor, sailors and people would get his message from all over the country. One main message of his was, "We must and shall be free," in his pamphlet.
David Walker's appeal was widely spread throughout the North and the South. When his pamphlet became present in the South, the slave owners and plantation owners were not happy about it. In 1830, members of the North Carolina General Assembly used the appeal to tighten the state laws that dealt with slaves and free African American citizens. Slaves were now not allowed to be educated because it would give them the power they could use to rebel against their masters. Walker secretly had men disguised as sailors, merchants, preachers, and laborers who would expose the slaves to the pamphlets and teach them how to read. The David Walker Memorial Site claims his men taught over 100 slaves how to read and exposed them to Walker's pamphlet.
Word of Walker's private men got around, creating a search for Walker and a reward for his found body to be $10,000. However, on the morning of August 6, 1830, his body was found dead at the front of his shop. People believed he was poisoned, but more recent studies believed he likely died of tuberculosis. Walker died at a young age, around 33, but his son held his legacy and became the first African American on Boston's legislative in 1866.